Hi, and this is a Dragon Ball Daima Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta figure. And while I think it's pretty cool that we got one of these figures, I have two big problems with this guy. His cute chubby face, and the fact that he looks like he skipped leg day. I know this figure's based off of this promo art, but I want to see if I can try to make his face look something closer to the anime, and to see if I can make his legs not look like a pair of chopsticks. So let's see what I can do. While watching today's video, make sure you drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Alrighty, let's get started. First I had to take him apart. The first thing I wanted to do, aside from changing his face, was making his neck a little bit longer and make his head lean to the side to give us that trademark Vegeta attitude. Once I got the neck into a position that I liked, I used some epoxy sculpt and gave the man some extra neck. Moving on to the big chubby problem child, his face. I started shaving down the cheeks and the jaw, slowly shaping his face to be sharper, leaning a little bit closer to what we may have seen in older art styles. And since we want to give him a serious look, I also cut out his mouth and filled it with some epoxy sculpt. I added a small line here just so I knew exactly where I wanted the mouth to be, and sanded everything down to see exactly what I needed to sculpt on. I gave Vegeta a new set of lips, a new chin, and added in a little clay by his ears to help blend it in with his new, slimmer jawline. Then I did a whole lot of sanding on his face and his neck. And now that we're done here, it was time to move on to the legs. I'm going to be replacing this set of legs with these legs from this Vegeta figure, which is perfect since it will preserve the rounded style boots from Dragon Ball Daima. After taking it apart, I noticed that the peg was way too long to fit inside this torso, and used a soldering iron with a knife attachment to cut it out. The peg was made of this super hard plastic, so using an X-Acto knife wasn't really gonna cut it. Luckily, the torso fit perfectly on this set of legs. Next, I sanded off all the visible seam lines on the entire body, cut and sanded off the Bandai logo from the boots, and now we're ready to paint. First, I primed all the pieces with some spray primers. Starting with the face, I hand painted the base coat of his skin since I can't seem to find an equivalent skin tone in airbrush form. If anyone knows of one, let me know in the comments. Similar to what I did with Gohan Black in my last video, I'm trying to do some things in a new order to save on some cleanup time by doing the outlines of his pupils and his eyes first. And then I filled in the rest of his pupils with some emerald. Then I used some Tamiya brown panel liners on his eyebrows and his mouth. And honestly, looking back, I should have done this before doing the pupils, but hindsight is 20/20. And per usual, I added in some pink brown panel liners in his ears and under his lips. And then cleaned it all up with some X20 thinner. I wasn't really satisfied about how the line work looked underneath his eyes, so I decided to paint it in instead. Then I went in and cleaned up all of my line work with some flesh color, and then finally filling in the whites of his eyes. Then I went down to the spray booth and added a little bit of highlights on his brows and his cheeks using a light flesh color. Next, I airbrushed a whole bunch of shadow layers on all of the crevices on his bodysuit, armor, and his hair. Then I did a brighter blending layer to help soften some of those shadow lines. And then did a highlights layer on the raised areas of the musculature of his jumpsuit and the tips of his hair. For the jumpsuit, there were some smaller details that I'm not able to get with the airbrush, at least not at my skill level. So I dry brushed on some extra highlights. I also hand painted the brown armor pieces and the tips of his boots. And I applied some brown panel liners in between the armor lines. Cleaned it up. And gave those brown sections some dry brush highlights. Then I applied a matte clear coat to the entire figure. And all that was left to do was to put them back together.